We will finish this on America First conditions of President Trump's choosing. Nobody else's, as it should be. And know this above all, President Trump and I have your back, always.
The ceasefire had brought an end to the fighting, but the Strait of Hormuz remained one of the most dangerous stretches of water on the planet. Iranian forces had spent weeks seeding the shipping lanes with thousands of explosive devices during the conflict, some drifting freely with the current, others chained to the ocean floor at varying depths. These hidden weapons made every meter of the waterway a potential death trap. No cargo ship, no oil tanker, no vessel of any significant size could risk the crossing until the threat was removed. That responsibility landed on the shoulders of one unit, the United States Navy SEALs. The mission briefing took place in a restricted room at the forward base closest to the strait. Team leaders studied detailed maps highlighting the areas where enemy mining activity had been most intense based on aerial surveillance and signals intelligence. What they were looking at was not a simple clearance job. The devices planted across the shipping corridor came in multiple configurations, each designed to defeat a different type of detection or removal method. Some reacted to changes in magnetic field caused by a large metal hull passing nearby. Others were triggered by the distinct acoustic pattern of rotating propeller blades or by sudden shifts in water pressure. Standard naval minesweeping ships were completely unsuited for this environment. The depth variations were too unpredictable, the debris field too dense, and the mine technology too advanced. The only path forward involved putting trained human beings directly into the water alongside live explosives. Gear preparation consumed the hours before launch. Operators assembled their underwater equipment with methodical attention, demolition tools for cutting steel mooring cables, clamp systems for attaching neutralization charges to mine casings, compact handheld sonar devices for close proximity detection, and fully sealed dry bags to protect. Sensitive electronics. Each man ran through a complete check of his rebreather unit, a closed-loop breathing system that recycles exhaled air and produces no visible bubble trail on the surface, keeping the diver's presence completely concealed. Firearms were also prepared and waterproofed, because working in enemy-adjacent waters meant the possibility of surface threats could never be fully ruled out. Nothing was left to assumption. The operation moved outward from multiple launch platforms at once. Fast, inflatable craft sped low across the water toward the outer edge of the mined zone, engines reduced to their quietest operating mode. When the boats reached the boundary of the hazard area, operators rolled silently into the water and submerged without a single unnecessary movement, letting the darkness swallow them completely. Compact 2 operator submersibles had been dispatched into the deeper sections of the strait well before the surface teams arrived. These small underwater vehicles crept through the lower water column with their sonar arrays active, building a picture of the seabed below and the midwater column around them. When a mine shape resolved clearly on their screens, the operators brought the craft to a near stop and extended the vehicle's mechanical arms to make contact with the device, attaching a cutting charge to its mooring line or manually working through its external trigger assembly. Every approach required complete concentration. The difference between a successful neutralization and a catastrophic detonation was measured in millimeters and seconds. Separate dive teams entered the water from submarines holding position further out in the Gulf. Moving through the depths on motorized propulsion sleds, they covered distance efficiently before transitioning to manual finning as they closed on their assigned targets. Working in pairs, each team divided responsibilities precisely, one operator handling the technical work on the mine directly while the other maintained spatial awareness and watched for any external threat. Darkness and cold pressed in from every direction. The two men communicated exclusively through physical signals, their rebreathers cycling silently as they worked through one device after another. When a mine's mechanism was too complex or too unstable to disarm by hand, a small remote detonated charge was fixed to its outer casing, and the team withdrew to a safe distance before initiating the controlled destruction. Overhead, naval helicopters flew low patterns across the operation area, deploying towed sonar equipment and electromagnetic detection systems to map the most concentrated clusters of mines before dive teams reached them. This overhead picture was fed continuously to the surface coordination vessels, which in turn directed team movements and tracked the progress of the cleared corridors. Security boats patrolled the perimeter at speed, ready to move instantly toward any position where a team signaled for emergency extraction. The physical and mental demands of the work were extreme. Operators cycled in and out of the water on timed rotations specifically to prevent the kind of deep fatigue that leads to fatal errors in a live minefield. Teams worked through the floating mines first, the most immediately dangerous to surface traffic, before descending to address the anchored devices closer to the seabed. The clearance moved methodically from lane to lane, with each confirmed safe corridor marked by encrypted subsurface beacons feeding positional data to navigation systems above. Hours passed. The operation did not rush. Speed was secondary to accuracy in an environment where a single mistake had permanent consequences. Gradually, the safe passages widened. When enough of the primary corridor had been confirmed clear, a small surface vessel was authorized to make a slow transit through the lane while observers tracked its every movement. It reached the far side without incident. The clearance was real. The full scope of what had been accomplished was difficult to overstate. A complex, multi-layered minefield covering one of the world's most critical maritime choke points had been systematically reduced through coordinated underwater work conducted under constant threat of detonation. Submersibles, dive pairs, surface security craft, and aerial support had all operated as a single interlocking system, each element supporting the others across the full depth of the water column. Large commercial tankers were now being cleared for transit through the lanes the teams had carved out. The broader regional picture remained tense, and the possibility of isolated undiscovered devices could not be entirely dismissed. But the operational threat that had closed the strait to all shipping had been broken. The men who had done it would not appear in headlines or receive public recognition. They had gone into the water in the dark, worked among live explosives for hours, and come back having done exactly what was asked. The Strait of Hormuz was moving again, because a small group of operators had gone where no one else could and done what no one else would.